Hey guys, this is Chelsea again, and this is Lab 4, Objective 1. In this lab, I'm going to turn on and off an LED using a potentiometer, which is right here. And in this case, I have a 220 ohm resistor, which is here, and an LED. And from the LED, there's a jumper cable going into the negative bus, through the resistor, into the pin 8 in Arduino, and then back through the breadboard with my negative and positive leads going to 5 volts and ground. And then I have a yellow jumper cable here going on one side from the ground through the potentiometer, through this jumper cable, through the analog terminal, and back through to the negative terminal, back to the other side of the potentiometer. So in this case, the potentiometer is all the way down, which just means it's off. When I turn it all the way up, the LED should come on. And so my sketch looks like this on Arduino. So void setup, pin mode is setting pin 8 as an output, and then serial begin turns on the serial communication. And then I have delay, which slows down the program, and I have analog read right here, which reads the potentiometer as an analog device, and then serial print line, which prints it onto the serial monitor. And then I have my if-else statement here. If the pot sensor is greater than 400, then the LED light will be on, and that's used with digital write 8 high. And if this statement is false, then it jumps down to else, and it completes the else statement. If the pot sensor is less than 400, then it'll turn off the LED. So when I go to my serial communications up here and turn on serial monitor, hold on. Okay, so here's my serial monitor, and right now it's reading 0 because the potentiometer is all the way turned off. And when I turn the potentiometer on, the light comes on, and I also get some numbers varying from 0 to 1023. This is Objective 2. So in this one I have a line tracker, which is right here, and it's going to detect the black tape versus the white paper. And in my serial monitor, it's going to show black line detected, or it's going to read white line detected. Okay, so the line tracker has a white cord, and that's the analog. And then it has the black and the red, which is my basic ground and 5 volts. And when my sketch looks something like this, and in void setup it has serial begin, which turns on the serial communication, and then it has line sensor value equals analog read, which reads the line tracker as an analog device. And then my delay is 800 milliseconds, which slows down the program. And then I have another if-else statement right here. So if the line sensor value is greater than the threshold, which in this case the threshold is 400, if the value is greater than 400, my serial communications will read black line detected. If this statement is false, it will be the line sensor is less than the threshold, so then the serial communication will read the white line is being detected. So when I go up to tools and I turn on my serial monitor and I place the line tracker over the black, it's saying the black line is detected. And when I place it over the white, it shows that the white line is being detected. This is Objective 3 Part A. This one I'll have a push button, which is going to turn on this LED, And I have a 220 ohm resistor right here and a 10K ohm resistor. And the push button on one side, it has black going to ground, and the other side has, with this red jumper cable, going to pin 3. And then on the LED side, it has the orange going to ground, and then the green going to the 13 pin. Then the resistor goes, the 220 ohm goes to ground, and the 10K goes to the positive lead on the breadboard. And then I have my 5-volt input and my ground to Arduino. So when I push the button, the light comes on, and when I turn it off, when I let go, it turns off. So my sketch looks something like this. And in void setup, I have button 2 pin as an input, so it sets pin 3 as an input device. And then I have my LED pin, which is set to an output device, which in this case is the 13 pin. And then I come down to void loop, and it has button 2 state, which is the variable of what I'm going to call this, which is button 2 state. And then it has button 2 state equals digital read. So in this one, it's almost like analog read, but it's reading the push button as a digital input instead. And then I have my if else statement. So if button 2 state equals low, then it'll be off. So when I come down here and I have digital write high, that means the LED would be on. If this statement is false, then it'll come down here and do this statement. If digital write LED pin low, then the LED would be off. This is objective 3 still, but it's part B. And in this one I have 2 push buttons. All I did was I added a second 10K ohm resistor with a second push button. And it's the same setup. One side, this white jumper cable goes to ground, and then the orange goes to the second pin on the Arduino. And in this case, when both push buttons are pushed, the light will come on. And my sketch looks like this. So all I did was I added an extra integer. So my extra one was button 1 pin, which equals 2, which is the second pin on the Arduino. And I come down to void setup. I have pin mode button 1 pin as an input, and then everything else is the same in this section. And I come down to void loop, and I added button 1 state equals digital read. So it's reading 2 push buttons as digital inputs. And then I have my if else statement here. So on this if, it says button 1 state equals low, and button 2 state equals low. So in this case, the two ands have to mean that if I push both buttons down at the same time, the light comes on. And if this statement is false, then it'll jump down to the else statement and complete the statement. Still part C, and in this one I have the same exact setup, but in this case I'm going to do either push button. When either push button is pushed, the light will come on. So I push this one, it comes on. I push this one, it comes on. In my sketch, it's exactly the same, but the only difference is I changed the and to these 2 parallel lines, which represents an or statement. So if button 1 state equals low, or button 2 state equals low. So that means if button 1 either needs to be pushed, or button 2 can be pushed for the LED to turn on. This is objective 4. In this objective, I have 3 push buttons and 3 10K ohm resistors and 3 LED pins, and then another set of 3 220 ohm resistors. So in this case, I want to push, when I push one push button, one light will come on, and if I push another one, the second light comes on. If I push the third one, the third light comes on. So this one should turn on the blue light, and this one turns on the red one, and this one turns on the green one. So in my configuration, I have the short side of the LED goes to ground. The long side has a resistor with a jumper cable going to the Arduino board. And then for my push buttons, I have one side with a 10K ohm resistor and the yellow going to the Arduino board. And then the other side going from this jumper cable to ground. And then I have my power, which is my 5 volts, and my ground. And my circuit should look something like this. So here I'm just declaring where the push buttons are on the board, and I'm on here. It's setting the push buttons as an input and setting the LEDs as output. And I have push button 1 state, push button 2 state, and push button 3 state, which equals digital read, which is reading the push buttons as a digital input. And then I have my if-else statement here. So it says when push button 1 state equals low, and push button 2 state equals high, and push button 3 state equals high. So here it's saying the low means that when I push the one push button, the blue light comes on, and these two should be off. And then this is saying that when I push the button, this will turn on. And it does the same thing for the other two lights. So push button 1 and 3 are off, push button 2 is on, and push button 1 and 2 is off, and push button 3 is on. And then I have my else statement. So if one of these is false, then it jumps down to here and it does this command. This is lab 4, objective 5. So in this objective, I still have my 3 push buttons, but instead of the 3 LEDs, I have an RGB LED, and each pin has 220 ohm resistors going to the positive ground, the positive lead, and the long pin is going to ground. And the only difference is my sketch looks like this, and I changed the integers: red pin, green pin, blue pin, and everything else is the same except for the integer names. Okay, so when I push one button, the red light comes on. If I push this button, the green one comes on. And then I push the third one, the blue one comes on. This is objective 5. I just added another part to it. So instead of doing red, green, and blue, I also can mix the colors when I push 2 push buttons at the same time down. So when I push the red and green, I get a yellow. When I push the green and the blue, I get a cyan color. And when I push the red and the blue color down, I get a magenta. So my circuit, or my sketch, looks like this in Arduino. So all I did was I added some more if statements here. So here's my first 3 if statements for the individual colors. And then down here is 3 more if statements. So it says if push button 1 is low, push button 2 is low, that means the red and the green will mix and make yellow. And then it does the same down here. If push button 1 and 3 are low, then it'll make I believe that's the cyan color. And then down here, if push button 2 and 3 are low, it'll be the cyan. Sorry, the the red and the blue is the magenta, and the blue and green is the cyan. And that completes the circuits.